Taro Daniel has been in the top 150 for the last 10 years with a career high of number 58. And if you understand the tennis landscape, you'll know how incredible that achievement is to be that consistent over that length of time. He's got wins over the GOAT, Novak Djokovic. He's beaten Casper Ruud and he's beaten Andy Murray. Now he's having the toughest year of his career on tour, struggling for wins and really looking to find new ways to overcome the next generation that are coming through, that are hitting really hard, strong, moving better, and just trying to adapt his old ways so he can continually have wins on the tour. He's open and honest in this conversation, and one of the best conversations that I think I've had on this podcast, and I'm absolutely pumped to release this with you today. Taro, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you coming on today.
No, thanks for having me.
So if anyone listened recently, there was a really good podcast that you had, and like parts of what you said really went viral a little bit on the Control the Uncontrollables podcast. So I suggest anyone goes out and has a little bit of a listen, because I don't want to just have like a standard conversation with you today where we just talk about like, you know, all the background and or maybe just everything about like some core matches. Of course, I want to touch on some of that stuff, but I just don't want to repeat some things, and I actually want to build on that conversation because I thought it was a very insightful, and I really appreciated how open you were, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because I think we can use the time to actually have like a pretty cool discussion today based on what you spoke about there, and then even taking it further, hopefully. So that's the intention with the chat today that I've prepared for.
Yeah, sounds good.
So the first thing I want to dive into. So you spoke about for you've had 10 years consecutively in the top 150, 130 in the world, which is absolutely insane. Like for people to actually comprehend how tough and how good that is to be in the top 50 for 10 years straight is insanely hard, and also just shows your dedication and how consistent you've been to the craft for so long. So how has your game changed over those 10 years? Because maybe the results aren't as good some years, but I still feel over time you keep getting better just with age and experience, even though the body maybe isn't as good as what it was over time. So can you talk us a little bit more about how your game has evolved over that time and what you feel like you've actually added or changed throughout the last 10 years?
Yeah, thanks for recognizing that feat, I guess. It's not super sexy, you know. Like, but for me, that's what I value about my career the most, more than the flashy, more like the Olympics or beating Djokovic or stuff like that. For me, my value has been more the consistency and the constant growth that we all need to go through in order to stay at a certain level for a long time. And that's what I aim to do also for the remaining part of my career. And yeah, it's there's so many angles to it, you know. There's been at different patches of those 10, 12 years, like different things needed to be implemented in order to be able to go a little bit further or to be able to adapt to the new levels that have come. Uh, you know, in the beginning, it was definitely more like just naturally growing into a more adult body. Because I think when let's say 10 years ago, I'm 22, so I'm still pretty skinny there. And maybe the physical preparation back then was, for at least I grew up with like a lot of resistance running, you know, like long distance running, very classic, uh, like Japanese and Spanish style, like just go run for a long time. And with weights, like we would lift weights, but not super heavy. And we didn't really focus a lot on stuff, on technique or on like lift on muscles. We were just about like how much can you run, how long can you play. So we needed to definitely adjust that. I'd say like from 22 years old to like 25, that was maybe like the biggest shift. and that's where the Ito Portal movement training came in, where you know a lot about, which I still really have. I really appreciated having experienced that through my dad, and I'd really like to go back to it more when I retire, because it was a very philosophical approach to movement, and you know a lot of physical things are too practical these days. It's not just about you know, it has to be more about why do you move instead of like, oh, like I want to lose fat on my ass kind of thing. Uh, so, and then yeah, after that, like 22 to 25, you know, then like something started changing within the tennis, like uh, like within the players, like the with COVID, like that was 5 years ago. So suddenly young players started coming in. That's when Alcaraz and Sinner they started like winning challengers. I think maybe that was even like 3 or 4 years ago, but like something started to shift in the way people played. Like it
So you
used
could
to be more like 10 years ago, I would really just grind and grind, and people would have their strengths and clear weaknesses. So like an American player would be very aggressive, but very like unorganized play style from the back side of the court. Similar to Aussies and English, and you know, like people would be very aggressive, but would make a lot of errors. Or if you were a Latin player, like Spanish or Argentinian, they'd be more solid, not make mistakes, but their balls would not like they wouldn't be penetrating through the court as much. So you could kind of dominate the exchanges, but it would be really hard to win a point. And now those two are totally combined, and it's created this like monstrosity of a game the last few years. So that's been, you know, the biggest challenge I think is because I feel like I've really implemented and grown a lot through the last 10 years, but the change that's come now is been so drastic, um, that like it's like a new level of new era of tennis that's just come. And I've had to definitely like kind of change my playing style. So like I used to be super grindy, just really stay far back, hit the balls high, get the balls back in. My forehand in today's standards was horrible 10 years ago. Like I could hit a good ball if I had time, but if they hit fast into my forehand on a faster court, like on a hard court, I wouldn't be able to like adapt to that. But so I had to kind of change technique on my forehand, start to learn how to play more in the court so I can like win more points uh, aggressively, uh, not just defensively. And yeah, and then of course the mental space that, uh, which has been the biggest life transformation, not just for tennis, but like for life in the past 4 or 5 years for me. But I also see that the players are really implementing like sports psychology in the game these days, which is yeah, um, everybody's just good at everything. So um, anyway, I feel like I was pretty unorganized in the way I put things to this like a long
yeah,
like
yeah.
10-year span, but like there are like all kinds of angles that you have to adapt to in order to like stay with this like elite group of players.
Yep. Could you start to sense like the change coming, and how long before you started to feel like you were making some change yourself in your game? Because I feel like when there's all this, I guess, discussion online around like, oh yeah, you know, the level's not as good as what it used to be, and they're talking about like the era of obviously Big Three, and then like you had like
Mm,
Burditch and Songa, and like all these guys like Del Potro in the top 10. Everyone's like, oh no, that was peak tennis. But talking from someone that's experienced that era and now this era as well, you seem to believe that the level now is much better, and the consensus that I'm starting to gather is the level from the bottom up and the depth throughout the whole top 100 and beyond is way better. And maybe the top 10 back then was comparable, maybe even a little bit better than what it was, but like the depth underneath is what's making it really, really challenging that you've had to adapt to. So how is that true from your point of view? And then also,
Yes.
is that something that you started to like? How long before you were recognizing this was happening when you go like, oh shit, like I actually have to change what I'm doing here
Right.
because this is not going to work.
Yeah, there are two parts to it. So for me personally, I felt like I needed to change already in like 2015, 2014, 15, because I started seeing that players were starting to actually properly warm up in the gym before going to practice. But before that, like people would just turn up their practice court and warm up and like run 5 minutes and then just start practicing. And now like everybody's in the gym an hour before doing all kinds of stuff before they're practicing. So the way all these kids now have trained since they were like 10 years old is completely different to the way I've like developed when I was a teenager. Um, so when I first started like adapting my game, that was 10 years ago, I really started feeling the difference and the change of demographics of the game also during COVID. That first year of COVID, I felt that the guys that were like 2, 3 years older than me, maybe 5 years older than me, they were starting to not be able to win as many matches. And they were starting to lose to guys that like, and then suddenly people that we didn't know started appearing, in the qualifying of challengers, in the first rounds of challengers, like bunch of names that I've never seen and nobody's ever seen. And those guys are somehow like suddenly starting to be guys that were like 150, 80, 90. And I was like, maybe people are just mentally struggling a little bit because of COVID. I wasn't like 100% sure that like, oh yeah, tennis has evolved that much. I until then I also thought that, oh, the young generation's not that good. Um, you know, and I kind of thought like, oh, they're very reckless with the way they're playing. Like they hit the ball so hard, but they make so many errors. Um, and that was the case like 8 years ago, 7 years ago. But since
Yeah.
COVID, yeah, the Alcarazes and the Sinners, they came up and like they completely changed. And together with that, even the conditions changed. Like the balls are getting heavier, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
encouraging these like really high speed, not like less variety, like high speed, very physical rallies. And really, what I've been feeling the last couple of years has been like everyone is so good. Um, and I don't know anyone. So I'm at a challenger. Um, and now I've finally come to accept that like, oh God, I can totally lose to a guy who's 4 or 500.
Okay.
Uh,
So that
yeah,
would have been hard to accept in the early stages, and that was a
yeah,
process to go. Because
yeah,
if you don't accept that, then that would have just mentally cooked you for a while, and
yes,
also
yes,
not allowed you to implement some clear strategy or just focusing on how you're actually going to win certain matches because you're
yes,
too bothered using mental space, focusing on how can I lose to a guy at this ranking, rather than
yes,
looking at
yes,
the actual level.
yeah,
Yeah, which is a great trap for so many juniors because they look at the UTR rating because we use the
hmm,
UTR in Australia and they just think, oh yeah, this UTR here, I won't lose to this person, rather than actually
yeah,
looking at the level of and it's looking at what's actually going on in front of you to see, wow,
yes,
like this
yes.
level, this ball striking, like this quality out of their racket is pretty good here. I need to be doing this, and this to give myself a chance to win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's still a struggle for me sometimes because like last year I still finished the year like top 100, but I was already feeling like very uneasy. Like in every practice, I felt like I was playing really well, but like I would hit with anyone who's like 20 years old, who's like 3, 400. and I would lose a lot of those practice sets playing well, and I'm just getting kind of like blown off the court. Like they're just hitting winners everywhere, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like like am I? And I used to really like insult myself, really auto criticize, because I must be hitting the ball super short, so that they're able to do this. But then now I finally see that like, okay, it's not, it's just really the level that's gone up, um, versus me not doing things well.
Mm-hmm.
and and also to accept that, okay, like I have to stay optimistic enough to believe that I can like keep up with these guys the next few years. Um, but also to accept that like it's okay to have a year like I'm having currently, which is honestly like result wise it can't really go any worse. Um, but like to be able to kind of like accept that I'm gonna lose a lot of these matches, but then at some point it's gonna turn. Hopefully it's gonna turn if I keep allowing myself to integrate into this kind of new new tennis dynamics.
Well, that's the first step, right? You actually have to
Mm.
accept the circumstances, be aware of the circumstances of what's actually happening, honestly, and then accept them, and then actually have some intention around how you're gonna do that. This episode is brought to you by Rackets and Strings, which is Adelaide's leading racket specialist. There are two locations, one in Mile End and one in Sutherland Park. But don't fear, if you're not in Adelaide, you can go online and get everything you need. All tennis accessories, all racket sport accessories as well. If you are in store, you can try before you buy. They have 2 hitting walls in both their locations. You can take a demo away, and you're getting expert advice from the best in the business. They are a family business that have been doing it for 40 years, and Matt has been doing it for 20 himself. So he is extremely knowledgeable and is very good at steering you in the right direction to actually get the right equipment that is going to be good for your personal needs. And that's what makes them better than the rest, in our opinion. So please head to Rackets on Strings online, or if you're in Adelaide, get in store and get the best deals in town. So this kind of jumps into a quote that you said in the last podcast, which I think is really, cool to expand on. I'm curious to hear what you think about this. So you said overcoming internal challenges for yourself in order to win in new circumstances to achieve new heights, right? So what are those internal challenges that you now have to overcome in order for you to now stay in the top 100 to win now at this new level that is upon us in the tennis world?
Yeah, so internal challenges would be basically I really weaponized like I my strength was that my discipline would come from being able to like be really hard on myself. Really hard on myself. And that's how I learned how to play tennis, how to compete. It's definitely a characteristic that I've always had to be very judgmental.
Mm-mm.
And it's a double-edged sword. Like it's not like all negative. Uh, so I was very competitive and hate to lose kind of thing. Um, and all my surroundings since I was a kid really like kind of embraced that type of mentality. Like if I lost, people, coaches, family would get disappointed in me. So I would use that as fuel during a match to kind of like mm, fire myself up in order to play better. But there's no more that engine doesn't really effectively work anymore because there's always going to be suffering in a tennis match. But if uh there's this like this shift, like in the last couple years of okay, with the players before, if I am able to suffer more than the other guy, then I can win. But now that doesn't work anymore because the level is too good for that, like buffering suffering in order to work. Um, I need to be able to forgive myself a lot more in order to let myself play a lot freer, take more risks, not be afraid to hit a slice or to go do a serve and volley and stuff like that. Um, so I feel like that's kind of the shift that I'm trying to make,
That's
to not, and also kind of, I've tried to do that really the last few years to not judge myself. But that's the thing is a lot of times with these like big statements that sound really easy to do, like don't judge yourself so much. It's more like you need to accept that you are going to judge yourself, but to not act according to the judgment.
yeah,
Um,
that's big what you just said.
yes, it's because
Mm.
I've really struggled the last few years because I tried to self-improve, like overcome inner challenges with these quotes that sound very easy, like, oh, like if you have doubts, then you should let it go, or like in order to be the the purpose of life is to be happy, appreciate what you have. All these things that make sense, and that's ultimately what you want to do. But being able to do those things, it's not just like a switch. It's not just like oh yeah, I'm grateful and I'm
Yeah, yeah.
suddenly in a euphoric place. Like I say thank you despite having all these judgments. It's
Yeah,
kind of
100%. Yeah, yeah.
the constant, really every second of your day kind of like paradigm shift that you need to keep creating.
It takes time.
Um, and takes, I mean, maybe you might die like
Yeah.
before you completely be able to do it.
Well,
But
it's why
that's a worthwhile journey, I guess.
100% from a life point
Mm.
of view as well, and then the ripples into your tennis. Well, I think you'll just enjoy the process a lot more. But
Mm.
it's like completely changing the operating system of the fabric of your psyche, right? You've been operating from a certain point of view for so long in your mind, and then you're going to try to completely change the software of how your mind operates, and that's a big change, right?
Yes,
It's like
yes,
you're talking about acting upon discipline and almost like self-hatred, suffering, like anger. That's more fear and anger based rather than like almost shifting over to like a love and a joy side of
yes,
things. Like that's a big change, you know, and
yes, yes.
that takes a long time. And I know from my own experience, like I haven't implemented this in a like a high performance sporting space. Like obviously I kind of have on a low level competing
Mm.
like at a top local level, but like nothing obviously towards where you guys are, which would be very hard because of the pressure cooker that you're in and the media scrutiny and just everything that you guys face at this like top end level. To implement those changes at that level is really really tough. And it would be very easy just to kind of slip into old ways of what's always worked. So I guess what is the actual like the core beliefs that you've had to really work through to change that? Because I know from my experience in my personal journey of working through therapy to understand my core beliefs that are
Mm.
holding me back to shift into some of these mindset shifts that you're talking
Mm.
about, like they stem pretty deep into the past,
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
you have to really unwind some things or some past experiences to actually shift that I think almost all tennis players could benefit from, that they don't want to do because they're too scared, understandably
Mm.
so. So I don't know if you're open to sharing even just parts of that, but what are those things that you've had to actually unwind to shift into this completely new software?
Well, I think to be so a few years ago, I used to work with Sven Grunewald. I still work with him, but I was traveling with him then. It was like the first or second year I was with him, and he was like a coach as experienced as him. He was like, there are certain things about you that I can't help, and I need to ask for help from another person in order to help you with this. Like, because I was so judgmental and so critical of myself if I lost a match, and he saw that. So there's this person called Jackie Reardon who she's like a mm, like a life coach, like a mindset. She has like a meditation program online called Friendly Eyes. So I started working very intensely with her for a few years, together with Sven, and that was really the first step into this kind of self-observation, self-searching world. And yeah, definitely those pattern like the biggest shift for me was when they told me like, hey, you need to start vocalizing your thoughts a lot more. Um, and they were telling me these things I didn't understand, and then they were like, just talk out loud, uh, or like think out loud. And that's when I started seeing all these things that were coming out of my mouth that were and beliefs that just were completely ridiculous in the current situation, fears that I had, or let's say how I deal with money. I was too protective of money, uh because like let's say when I was a teenager in an academy, like uh uh the waiter would bring some bread, right? And we're like there with five guys and we're all hungry and we're like just like trying to grab all the bread that we can before somebody else grabs it kind of thing. So like, losing €1 to or $1 in a bet to a friend felt dramatic, even though I have thousands of dollars, kind of thing. And of course, it's important to be conservative and be precise with the way you spend your money, but so those things, everything had a connection of like, oh, I can't make a mistake. Um, if I make a mistake, then somebody's gonna punish me. And and this started. This was most of this was only in tennis, but then it started really coming in really strongly into my personal life the last 5 years. And yeah, that journey of I can't share this right now, but there was like a mental health thing I was struggling with the last few years. Um, that is very much connected to this perfectionism, can't make a mistake type of mindset. Um, and how to deal with that. Because I thought, okay, when you first start talking, you feel so good because you start unloading all the crap you have on you. But then you realize that there's like a non-stop engine that just keeps rolling and rolling, and it's, you know, I'm a very anxiety prone person, so it just keeps rolling and you want it to stop, but it doesn't, right? And then um that's when I like maybe in the last year or two I realized, okay, like just let go, or like just stop thinking about it. Those those things were super counterproductive. That I need to find my own like, all right, I might have these thoughts for the rest of my life, but I'm gonna do this anyway, kind of mindset, really. That I might, yeah, I'll most likely keep having these thoughts, but I'm gonna do what I want to do and
Yeah.
not oblige to, yeah, to that old software, really. And it's, yeah, it takes a lot of, in order first you need to intellectually understand it, and then you need to implement it into like an internal feeling and like a physical feeling. And that's where I've been, that kind of shift of intellectual understanding to trying to implement it physically and kind of emotionally so that it becomes more natural, and that at least that engine that was rolling so hard starts like rolling a little bit slower, and then I'm building this new one. Um, and hopefully it's in time for tennis that I can reach new heights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is all
before I
yeah,
retire. Yeah.
yeah. This is all linked, and if you can slow down that process and operate from this new way of thinking and feeling and being, then I have no doubt that you could be playing at the best level that you've ever played, with a lot of freedom on the court. A sense of just joy and just yeah. Even if maybe the results don't come, you just love being on
Mm.
court and playing the brand of tennis that you're playing, which would be such a beautiful place to be. Um, I have some students that struggle with the perfectionism, and just so harsh on themselves for making mistakes. And even when they're playing like a really good brand of tennis, like they're just one little thing. It's just so that's all I can see. So
Mm.
from someone that's battled with that and been so harsh on yourself for so long, like how would you say, or what advice would you give to some of these students that I might have, or any aspiring young players that maybe face the same issues?
I think most of the people who are hard on themselves, and I think most people are in one way or another, we just have different ways to cope. But like if the person has this type of personality that like, obviously he shows frustration and has remorse about showing the frustration, um, then like you have to go super slow, I think, like I like to be able to kind of, I think, to open to discuss openly with a coach or with a parent in order to understand why you get so critical. Like what do you think will happen if you actually keep making these mistakes, and understand like what you think might happen. And most of the time the answer will be like, oh, I feel like somebody will punish me, or like God will punish me, or like I will die if I lose five first rounds in a row. And it really comes down to really dramatic, really.
Mm,
And then you kind of see that, okay, realistically, you're obviously not going to die if you lose a tennis match.
mm, mm,
um, or God's not going to give a crap about your tennis match. But
mm.
those are beliefs that all these people have. And I know that very well. And yeah, first step I think is to start discussing and like be open with it, but to start like really be like really soft with yourself, I guess,
Mm.
and look for help if you're willing. And um like really don't like you're gonna keep stacking like you're hard on why you're all hard on yourself, and then you're hard on yourself for hard being hard on yourself, kind of this
Yeah, yeah. It's just
role.
a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So to also just
yeah,
kind of like recognition for what's happening,
yeah.
and also give it credit that like it's something that worked in the past.
Yes, yes.
you
It
know
helped you until it didn't.
yeah, it helped you survive in a certain situation, and now it's not applying for your current situation.
Yeah, yeah. 100%. I think this also links into burnout, which seems to be a topic that everyone's talking about right now. The like what you're talking about, I think a lot of people are also experiencing, but maybe don't have the tools or the awareness or the willingness to go into why they're feeling why they're feeling this way in the way
Mm.
that you've actually tackled it, which is very admirable because people are very, open or okay to just absolutely grind and suffer in the gym and push themselves through physical pain, but they don't want to face emotional pain or internal pain as to why they're feeling so broken, which is very interesting. But tennis has this bot culture that like everyone seems a little bit dead inside,
Mm.
and like my business partner was just in Stuttgart, Halle, and Wimbledon qualies with Lee too, and he was just talking. He's an amazing guy, and I just love his energy. So him and I really bounce off each other, where we just have a great time, awesome energy. It's always like high fives, up and about, like having great conversations with people at the cafe, and just like a real zest for life.
Mm. Mm.
And he was just talking about on the tour, and I've also experienced it at a lower level, challenger level, when I've been around, and also the 250 when I've been a hitting partner. But you just feel like, where is the energy? Like, why does everyone
Yeah.
feel so dead?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what's going on? Everyone feels like a robot,
Yes.
and
And they are. Really.
yeah,
You're exactly right. And it's getting a lot worse the last few years. So, you saw guys like McEnroe and Yannick Noah like 20, 30 years ago, right? Like they were really characters and they were crazy, but they were having their own way of fun. They'd party, like they'd socialize, play cards with other players, and there was a lot more life outside of the court. And then that started to become a little bit more professional as time passed. And but the really biggest switch has come really with COVID when becoming social became uh like everything became antisocial. And obviously I think the implementation of technology and I think a lot of the businesses currently are like basically operating under big corporations. So like you're basically feeding into the system constantly. I'm not going to go into politics, but like the tennis politics is also like, okay, like you're basically a puppet that's playing in order to provide data for the betting site if you're in a lower level tournament. That's the earning incentive of the ATP or the subsidiary companies that have. And why does this relate to people being dead is because players have to keep chasing all these tournaments. They're paying for their own expenses. Keep chasing points. You have to be 200 in order to make Wimby quali to cash that $15,000 check. But in order to do that, you need to go 5 weeks in December, skip Christmas, and and miss time with your family, and like be in a miserable space in a futures event, in order to get there. And yeah, they all have their team now. They all want to avoid having a laugh with another player. Um, and I think a lot of the younger players I see, like they're amazing tennis players, but they're not there. Like
lights are on, no one's
there's
home.
yeah, yeah. It's like their eyes they're amazing on court. They come back to the locker room, they're on their phones. It's such a scene now, like you're in the locker room of whatever, Wimbledon, doesn't matter, Roland Garros, the challengers, it's the same. Everybody's on their phone in their locker room.
Mm.
And then it's an extreme case. It's worse than in the normal like day-to-day life. Um, all the so like anytime, there's a lot less like dinners going on with players and other players together. It used to
Mm.
happen a lot more often. Now it's like I think even the coaches kind of try to protect the player too much. Um, and yeah, I'm glad that some you feel that because it's been a really it's a huge I if I'd say like Alcaraz is like the only healthy guy on tour currently.
Yeah. It's very yeah. I was just gonna
Yeah,
say like
yeah.
Alcaraz, even Sinner, like Alcaraz, Sinner, like, but then also if you look at like Federer, Djokovic, like Djokovic is just extreme different human though, but then even like Nadal to a certain extent, but like again extreme in a different way, but they still seem human, but they've achieved like things that no one ever could ever achieve. But you have these guys
Mm,
underneath that still are insane, but it's almost like you need to have that human element or surpass something internally to go to greatness as well anyway. So it's like, why is
mhm.
everyone trying to suffer so much and become such a bot and like just no feeling, no emotion, no
Yeah,
socialness for what? Like you're not even then
yeah,
achieving what you want to achieve anyway. But then these guys that do achieve it at the like top end, like Sinner and Alcaraz, they seem more human than the rest. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
so
That's a
what's your
tough one because I feel like Alcaraz and Sinner, for me, Alcaraz is really the example because Sinner for me in some ways is like I don't know, like Sinner has a lot less emotion.
yeah
But Alcaraz, so in
yeah
that sense, for me, Sinner seems a lot more. He seems a little too clean
yeah
for
kind of
me
a
to
bot
believe.
kind of a bot
Yeah.
in a way, but from the reason why I say that is because many people that I've spoken to that have spoken to him say how easy it is to have a conversation with him and how generous he is with his time just to have a chat, just talk about normal
Yeah.
things, which
Yeah.
which is very like which these other top guys would just like almost like look away and just like roll their eyes if you try to have a chat with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think Alcaraz is a very good example because he smiles, right? He laughs, he gets pissed, doesn't like okay, he has this range of emotions and he plays, but I guess you can really see that he's a very family oriented guy.
Mm,
And um I guess when you reach that level, you have the money in order to be able to bring your herd,
mm,
your 10 people, 20 people herd that humans were designed to have to everywhere you go. But if you're not in the top 5, then it's very difficult to travel with a herd. You need to have your team, but team is different from a herd.
mm,
Um, and I think when you when you're able to have a herd the whole season, you're going to be more human. But if you're just traveling with your coach and if you're just traveling with your trainer for that's fine for 10 weeks, right? But like if you're out there 30 weeks, 35 weeks and under the pressure, like the rankings pressure, like oh, I need to make this cut in order to this. So you're always on that rat race. Um it's almost impossible not to be a bot.
mm,
And
mm, 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 mm.
and yeah, so I feel like Alcaraz and Sinner, I guess both they've done a really good job because even if you're there and have the financial resources, you do have to make the conscious choice to bring all those people with you and value your time with them. So yeah, I see that Djokovic has done that, Nadal has done that, even Federer as well. I think that's also why they're able to stay there for that long. Um, and they obviously have like an extraordinary talent that like yeah, nobody
You
has.
can't, yeah,
So
you can't deny
yeah,
that part.
yeah, yeah.
Mm, yeah, very interesting. So I guess what is a solution for like, is it the system? I know you've spoken about this a bit, but like the system essentially is it just one big casino where like the best players at the casino, the most talented, get all the rewards, and then everyone else is just
Yes.
kind of like feeding that massive casino
Yeah.
corporation?
Yes.
And what, obviously there's massive changes, but I know you've spoken about this a little bit. I think it's just good to kind of dive into a little bit more. So what would be the first practical implements to take? Because I guess one point that I think we could lead into here is to talk to Daria Saville, because she's been vocal about the burnout as well, and she spoke about and her husband Luke spoke about the mandatory tournaments that you have to play that is kind of cooking the system a bit. So basically it means that all of the best players have to play rather than take a break, and they're so strict on pulling out that if you are not ready to play, they basically say you have to play, even if you're carrying like
Yeah.
a pretty decent injury. They just won't accept
Yes.
it, which just means that you're taking up a spot, you're not really in the mindset to play, you don't want to be there, and then it just doesn't give a chance for someone else to actually have a go that actually is really wanting to be there, that then would pull up everyone from the bottom up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that, and what would be the first practical steps to changing this? Because it's a big change that would need to happen over many years.
Yes. For me, I think the easiest, I mean, it seems easy to me. It's probably not easy for them to implement, but you need to like take the players' expenses a lot more seriously. Um, so, we have the 50/50 profit share currently with the Masters events, and you get a bonus at the end of the year, like in correlation to how many points you've gotten in the Masters events. But like there it's profit sharing, right? Not revenue sharing. So like tournaments, if they make a new stadium, that's gonna be taken from the revenue, and then the profit's gonna be less. So if Rome is able to put in a new stadium that costs millions of dollars, then that's part of the tournament's expense, which is fine. But our expense to get to Rome with 3 people is like, oh yeah, we'll just like cover one hotel room and give you guys food for lunch. So, but then like we're like if you're top 100 and going to these Masters events, like you're spending 200, I'd say at least like $300,000 a year.
Yeah.
If you're bringing 2 people, 3 people,
US?
and US, yeah.
That's
And
insane what you just
and
said there. I think people need to realize what you just said,
yeah,
300,000 US
but
in 1 year.
this is just for the operational expenses. This not including the salaries of the coaches and stuff. So if you have a full-time traveling team with a coach and a physio, um, and you're like 50, 60 in the world, right? Like you're gonna be spending like $500,000, uh, US dollars, so a year. And a guy who's 50, 60 will make close to 1 million minus the 20% withholding tax on average. Like that's like 800,000. But that's a very short margin for the amount of
Yeah.
so for me the bigger tournaments need to step up and like kind of for me the easiest thing is like for the slams and the masters to provide a stipend and give kind of like a salary for the year to the players on top of what's already because these
Within a
events are making
within a certain ranking band though, like if you
yeah
finish
I'd say like if
top
you're
300, you get some sort
yeah
of salary.
I'd say top 300 is a good place to start because if you're top 300, then you're going to be close to making the slam qualies. And you need to give these people dignity. Like you can't like have these guys like losing money to go to tournaments.
Mm.
Because that's like you can't imagine, right? Like you're hiring a coach and you're like, oh, I'll just pay you $2,500, but you take care of your hotel and and your flights. Like, um, it's a concept that doesn't really exist in like it's a way that a hobby operates, like a glorified hobby. But the industry has too much value financially for people in the top 300 to be treated like that.
Yeah.
I get it if it was like an amateur sport where they only are when they're where they're only able to provide, prize money in a tournament as big as Olympics, which only happens once every 4 years. Then
Mm.
okay, if you have to go to France to do a gymnastics event and you have to pay your own expense, but like then the federations are covering your expense. But for us, for the amount that we have to travel, um, yeah, and they say that it's like your choice to travel, but it's not because you have like you said with the Masters events, they're mandatory. But in order to make the Masters events, you need to go to the Challengers, you need to go to the 250s, you need to go to the
Mm.
500s. And the crazy thing is that even in the 250, if you're not in the quarterfinals, which is you're not making a substantial amount of money.
Mm.
So, and this is some like we've dedicated our entire lives to this sport. So, um, and the sport has that much financial value. So it's like for me, something's not click, and I think that's
Yeah.
also why people are bots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like they play without knowing how they're really
A
abusing
slave.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's so interesting. I think we're connecting some dots here.
Mm.
Very interesting stuff. Um, I'll let people interpret that how they want. Because I think that was a nice little passage there. That I think will spark people's interest. I'm mindful of your time, so I just rather than going into the classic like how was it playing Djokovic and winning against him,
Mm.
like if you want to listen to that, like go and watch the other podcast. I don't want you to feel like you have to repeat yourself, but I guess a different question would be, um, what about some really interesting matches or some interesting opponents that you feel like, wow, that player there, like, what an interesting style, or how it felt so weird playing someone like that, rather than the classic, the bot of everyone just moving good, playing super
Mm.
strong from the back, having a big serve, which pretty much everyone has now. So, is there some real quirky, different styles that you're like, well, I felt just so weird, like, or different playing someone like this?
Yeah, definitely like Benoit Paire.
Mm.
He's a classic. A great guy. I get along really well with him. But he's the very anti this age tennis. Um, he's very like plays however he feels like, and it's admirable, and also that's why he's not winning any matches currently. um, he hasn't worked that hard, I guess, in the last couple of years to adapt the game, maybe, but like he's like fascinating guy to watch because the amount of pace he gets on the back end, but then the touch and how he moves, and it's like I think that's a very interesting player. Um, and I think France has done that quite well. Like they've developed some players that have very strong characteristics. Um, Maybe not at the top, but like maybe guys like Moutet. Uh, he's crazy, but he's a fascinating player to watch. It's like 2 years ago he was playing with like no backhand, and he was still like hovering around the hundreds, which is insane.
Yeah.
Um, but
They
yeah,
seem
other than
to,
that, I guess.
yeah, I was just gonna say they seem to preserve their personality and
Yeah.
identity in themselves
Mm,
and how they play more than
yes.
other cultures.
Yeah, I think France does have like an emphasis on like developing your style of play. So a lot of players do have a very unorthodox style of playing in France. And it's fascinating because they're neighboring Spain, and Spain's the complete opposite. So it's yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah. Anyone else that you think's quite unique that you felt like, wow, that felt just different to play something like that style or that play?
I don't have one like that, but I do have one player that I really enjoy watching currently, which is Musetti.
Mm,
And it's very um he still has that like class, the finesse kind of type of play in a currently very, very physically like they're like players are not just bots mentally, but like the way they play are robotic.
mm,
And they're unbelievable players, but they're not that nice to watch.
mm,
But Musetti is like he's got that loose arm, moves really well, has a slice, kind of like looks at his coach and does this, and like I don't know, he has a bit of a flair
mm.
that I enjoy for watching as a spectator. And I've played him a few times, and yeah, I think he's a very good one to watch.
How does it feel playing him?
I mean playing wise, he plays quite a clean game, you know. Like so when you're playing him, like he's not gonna blow you off the court, but he has a really good forehand that he keeps just kind of moving you. But then he uses the drop shot, the slice, and he's really improved his serve the last couple of years. Um, and he can come in now and before he used to just stay far back and hit high. But now he can come in, and and it's fascinating how he's able to do well on grass, um, using his slice. And like using the slice that like strategically is not common anymore. So I do respect it because it's an environment that encourages like hard hitting, constant hard hitting,
Yeah.
and to keep your loop on the ball and the variation, it's not easy. So that's what I really respect about someone like that.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's really good to see
Mm,
someone that bucks the trend, with some
yeah,
different
yeah.
unique traits and variety and style. Like I want to see more of it, and just seems to keep his personality and his identity like
Mm,
in check. Like if you think about yourself as a brand, like that you can see what the Mercedes brand is. Whereas
yes.
when you look at a lot of players, you don't really know like who they are as people, whereas you can see like the artistry and
Mm,
the personality come through, which I think's important, especially in a sport like this, to actually have longevity to stay in the game. Yeah. Um, so I appreciate so much. I know you got to get to a dinner. But yeah, wish you all the best. I love your insights. I love how open you are. I respect the fact that you have been willing to make some real internal changes and face some hard beliefs that you've had about yourself and the world, and to actually do that while you're performing at the highest level to hopefully change in the twilight of your career. Is very admirable, and yeah, I wish you all the best, and definitely will be tracking your progress because yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see how you can go after some of these internal changes, and just if you can enjoy whatever time is left.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely. So
thanks a lot for having me. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the way we met. Fact that you met my dad through
yeah,
the movement, uh, and then to be able to kind of connect there through within the tennis world. I
yeah,
got really people made a lot of fun. People made fun of me when I was doing that.
yeah,
Other
yeah,
players, uh,
yeah,
but I really value that practice. So it's cool to
100%.
to
Yeah, yeah,
meet
yeah.
meet someone that, I guess we can talk about these things. And like, even if I'm not able, I felt like during the conversation there were times I got stuck, but you still
Mm,
kind
mm.
of understood what I was trying to say, which I do
Yeah,
appreciate. So
for sure, for
yeah,
sure.
thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same wavelength with a lot of these things and the
Mm,
way we view the world. So I think it's pretty easy to have like a free flowing, interesting dialogue that maybe people don't really connect with because they're not
mm,
on that wavelength. But that's okay. It's about the kind of dialogue that I'm interested in having with you, rather than the cookie cutter
yeah.
conversation that you can just play on repeat. Um, which I think could which is boring anyway. But just quickly with that stuff, so you're doing that movement stuff, and people were just, I guess, ridiculing you because they're not really understanding. It just looks funny without understanding the philosophy behind it. Um, was there anyone that you connected with that was like intrigued by it? They were like, "Oh wow, what is this? Is this helping in any way?" Or was it pretty much just only one-way traffic?
Most of the players were like kind of making fun of it. Like they're
Mm.
like, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?" Or like, "Oh yeah, Taro, like do that, like do that lizard thing."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I mean, they're not doing it like super disrespectfully. They're
yeah,
just kind of laughing at it a little bit,
yeah.
but they're also kind of like scanning to see if it's something that could be worthwhile for them. So it's like they're not stupid. So like they're like kind of figuring out what it's about
Mm.
by making fun of it. And um, I think maybe that's like a little bit of a male thing.
Yeah.
Like men maybe instead of asking an honest question like, "Oh, how did that help you?" they might
Yeah.
say, "Oh yeah, what the hell are you doing? Like what does that do for you?" You know,
Mm.
then they kind of spin it so that
Yeah.
like you have to justify why you're doing it. Instead of just saying, "Yeah, I'm really curious."
Yeah, it's interesting. If it's good
Yeah,
enough for Conor McGregor to win a couple world titles, to bring
yeah, yeah,
To bring Ito into his camp, to then beat Jose Aldo in what 7 seconds or whatever, however short it was, then
yeah,
I'm sure it could have some value to any athlete performing at a high level. So, yeah, that's their loss. But thanks again. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we wish you all the best in the next part of the season, and yeah, just keep on going.
yeah. We'll do. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again. Thanks again. We'll be in touch.